How's it going, everyone? My name is B, and this is for the YouTube channel Thoughts on Thoughts. So today we're going to be looking at quite a weird subject, but something that's always with us. Um, and this is going to be what the voice that's in your heads. What is the voice that's in your head? That's the question we're going to try and answer today. And yeah, it's quite a weird one because it's like a constant commentary of just stuff. It's like a just not running inner monologue of what's going on or how you feel about certain situations. That's how it seems to come across. And also, it feels like you can conversate with your mind. So when people say, "Oh, I'm trying to think about what I should do," or "I'm trying to make a decision," it's usually a conversation with yourself, which is quite a weird one when you think about it, because how can you be split into two? Who are you talking to? What is the voice? What are you two different beings in one? Like, is that what it is? So yeah, it's quite a weird one. Just think about that for a second. Like, who are you actually talking to when you're talking to yourself? Who who is it that you're talking to? How can you talk to yourself? How can you talk to you? It's a strange one, because obviously if you're talking to you, you would already know what you're going to say, so you wouldn't the conversation is almost irrelevant. But we tend to do it. We tend to talk to ourselves, and we tend to I don't know, maybe make decisions or uh, you know I don't know. There's just a constant kind of dialogue that is always just saying stuff in your head, and it's definitely very strange when you get to the bottom of it. So how it can manifest itself even to an extreme is maybe like a murderer that wants to kill someone. They'll get a voice in their head saying, "Yeah, kill them, kill them." What is that voice? Where does that come from? Or it could be something simple as stopping you from doing something you want to do. So maybe there's a job and the voice in your head is saying, "No, don't bother. Like, you're probably not going to get it. Don't apply for that job. You're not good enough, whatever." So a lot of the time it is actually quite negative. Well, explore for yourself. Like, a lot of the time it can seem quite negative, the stuff that it says. It tries to stop you from doing stuff that you want to do. Um, but really and truly, in a way, it's trying to protect you. It's just that it can't. All right. So basically, there's two sides. There's two sides to the mind, or two sides to the brain, I should say. And one side is the left side, which I call the mind. And in that, it's quite a mechanical thing. So basically, it's responsible for all the technical stuff that you need to work out, all your problem solving, your language, your learning, all that kind of stuff is your left side of your brain. On the right side of your brain is like the big picture thing, so it can see like the overall thing. It's more, I would call it like the direction. So it sets the direction. So you need both sides. You need a balance. So you need the tools to be able to achieve what you want to achieve or do what you need to do in your life. So you need language, you need all these things, but at the same time, you need a direction. You can't have just one. Um, so, for example, if you just have direction and you don't have, you haven't worked on the cognitive abilities, you can't put the direction into action. On the flip side, if you've just got technical abilities and you've got no direction, you can't put your all these cognitive technical abilities into action, because you don't know what you're doing. You're just, there's no direction. You can't see the overall picture. You can't see the bigger picture. So on both sides, you need a balance of kind of strength, what you would say. They need to be on a par so that you can get both your direction and you can get your technical abilities in there. So what we tend to do in well, mainly a lot in the Western world, more in the Western world than other countries. Um, but other countries do it as well. And as like the Western world takes over more and more countries will do it. But what we do is we tend to place emphasis on the technical side of the brain. So on the left side, on the mind, you can say. Now the mind, like I said, is technical, so it doesn't have the overall picture. So it just works on a mechanical basis. So this means that it's just there, really. It helps with your survival. So it kind of controls your mind patterns. And I would say it's the voice in your head, basically. But what we do in the Western world is that we place so much emphasis on that cognitive side. So everyone's value is almost based on that. So when you go to school, it's all about developing your cognitive side. It's all about, making your language better. So essentially what it is it's giving you all the tools to deliver the message, but it's not giving you the tools to work on what your actual message is. So you're working more on the left side and you're not working on the right side. So the right side will be stuff that you do to get in touch with yourself. So it'll be like, maybe meditation or spiritual stuff, or doing stuff you like, and just getting to the core of what you actually are. And we'll get into that in a second. But on the left side, it's more, we put so much emphasis on it. We put so much emphasis on it that the other side is completely buried. And we actually create a false self through the mind. That's how powerful the mind is. It can actually create a false ego, what we call an ego. It actually creates that out of that mind. Do you know what I mean? So if you notice, when a lot of people, when they're quite when they're quite egotistical, it really seems like a fake person who's just like forced this other thing to come out. So that's the mind has created that completely. And because the mind, or the left side, I'm going to use the left side as the mind, and we'll say what the other side is in a second. But yeah, the mind basically has created this person, and also because there's nothing behind it, because the other side is now buried. The mind can only really gain. Because essentially it doesn't exist really, because it's self-created. So it needs stuff. It needs identification to say that it exists. So how it gets this is what society tells the mind, because the mind can be programmed. You've seen this for yourself. You can be brainwashed. There's so many things that you can play with the mind. Even say you grew up in a religious household. When you get told something early on, like, oh, you're going to hell if you do this, or it doesn't even have to be that deep. It could be something like, always wash your hands, for example. So that's something that could, well, usually what they say is they try to scare you as well, your parents or old adults around you when you're a young kid. And this is a way to get into the mind. So it's something that will always replay in the mind. So you might be something like, oh, make sure you always wash your hands, because if you don't wash your hands, germs will build up, germs are disgusting, blah. So now that's imprinted into your mind. So that's going to be a constant pattern. So every time you dirty your hands or whatever, you then think, straight away, let me wash it. Because now you're thinking, now your mind, it's been put in your mind that you need to do this for survival. For you to survive and be a healthy person, this is what you need to do. So the mind is always able to be programmed, right? So when you think about the stuff that goes on in your head, like the kind of the things that you have to do, that you feel you have to do. So it could be something simple as, you have to dress a certain way because in the past that has got you attention that you wanted. So you dress a certain way, you always do it, you always feel like you have to do it. Or it could be as deep as like, well, a good example is like education is the most important thing in terms of how many degrees you get and how many awards you get and this kind of thing. But really, it's not in terms of you can do stuff without it, but the pressure that's put on you to do it, like people feel an intense pressure that if they don't succeed at this specific thing, which is academic learning, that they won't get far in life. And we know that that's not true, because all the greatest people who have done the most amazing things business-wise, your Bransons, Zuckerbergs, whoever, they've usually dropped out of college or come out with a couple GCSEs or whatever the case may be. So that's not a definite truth, but it's something that's programmed in us to say, okay, this is something that we have to do if we're serious about life, and if we want. So that's why you get a lot of students. I mean, I even saw a news report yesterday about 7-year-olds feeling pressure for exams, and because that's drilled into them that, listen, you guys, you got to take this seriously. You'll ruin your life if you don't pass it. And of course, when you're young, you haven't really got much to go on. You haven't got any other experience. So you rely a lot on adults to tell you, okay, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. So if you think about it in terms of downloading software, what you do is you download these programs and these mind programs that constantly tell you, okay, this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do. And these are all contained in the mind. So these will be flowing. And it gets to the point where with all these things that you believe now, and all these things that you think you are, so it could be even you think you're a race, you think you're a religion, you think you're this, you think you're that. So all these things create a new person that's not actually you. It's just that you've been programmed to be this person now. So all these beliefs that you've got are actually programmed into you. So it could even be, watching TV. Like there's certain mindsets that exist on TV that you might follow. So it could be something as simple as, okay, you need a relationship to be happy. For example, this is something I've noticed. I'm not just saying this because I'm single at the moment as well, but this is something I've noticed. It's like a constant thing where if someone's single on TV, they're usually unhappy. I don't know if you notice this, or if they're not unhappy, they're really looking for a partner. Even if they're a player or they like to deal with a lot of people, it's almost seen as a kind of sad thing as well. And I'm not even giving any judgment on what's better, relationship or single. What I'm saying is that it's weird that this is the thing that they're telling you reality is. Essentially, that's what they're doing. They're saying in reality, being single is not the best thing to be. Everyone needs to be looking for a relationship. But it's just something I've noticed. You might disagree with me, but even if you disagree with me and you're saying that they're saying single is best, why they're saying single is best. So it's another reality that they're pushing. So even when you buy into, it's something that's been in programmed on your mind, and then because it's constantly going on your mind, here's that real crux of it. Here's the turning point or whatever. If you believe that you're your mind, then you believe all these things are you, right? So you believe that you're all these things that you've been told at some point. It's not nothing you've been born with. All these things that you've been told, you believe are you because you're completely identified with your mind. You don't know that you're not your mind. Essentially, it's hard to fathom because when you're within it, how can you know that you're not? But the real way that you can know that you're not is because you're talking to yourself. Who are you talking to? Who you're talking to is who you think is you, which is the mind that has got all this programming involved in it. And it has all these beliefs in it, because when you talk to yourself and you're like, oh, should I go for this job? Well, your mind will say is, okay, based on the past and what we've been told to believe, or what's embedded in us, we believe that you shouldn't go for this job because you probably won't get it because you didn't get the last job. So, and that's the kind of conversation that you can have with yourself, with this ego thing. Now, is the ego thing is it a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing. What it does, it's just mechanical. It needs direction. It needs, because you can imagine if you put in the right thoughts and you put in the right programming, it will be the most amazing thing ever because you can literally program yourself to do anything in that case, as long as you can take a step back from it. But because we can't and because we're not taught anything on the other side, it's impossible really for us to know even what the right choice is because it's all been hijacked. It's all been we've all been programmed. We've all been brainwashed to some extent. If we think what's going on in our mind is us. Okay, so now the question comes in: if we're not our mind, if we're not all these thoughts that are going around in our mind, if it's not enough for you that you're talking to this thing, who are you then? What are you? Where do you come into it? And what is you? And what is you? This will be a weird one if you never thought about it before. If you thought about it before, then obviously it's not. But what it is you're the awareness. You're aware of these thoughts. You're the awareness. You're aware of what's going on outside, in the outside world. You're aware of what's going on in your inner world. But it's always an awareness. That's it. So it's impossible for you to be aware of the awareness because if you're aware of the awareness, then whatever's aware of that will be you, right? So the awareness can only be aware. It can't be aware of itself. It's like Alan Watts has a saying, if you don't know about him, check him out, Alan Watts, if you type that in on YouTube. But he has a saying, a knife can't cut itself the same way we can't know ourselves. So a knife is already, that's the foundation of it. So it can't cut itself. It can cut everything else, but it can't cut itself. So it's the same way as we can know other things, but we can be aware of other things, but we can't be aware of ourselves because we are whole. We are already one. How can you be aware of you? It wouldn't make sense. So that's how you know the ego is separate to you because you're aware of these thoughts coming through your head. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, we are the awareness. That's what we are. Yeah, so yeah, it's quite a deep one if you take that on board, um, because it's like you're always trying to be something in your life. You're always trying to be this thing, and what that is, what that feeling is. Say you're trying to be rich, or say you're trying to, be in this certain relationship, or you're trying to what's another big thing? I don't know, whatever. You're trying to get a dream job or whatever it is. um, it's always like you're trying to be something. So what that is you're trying to change your ego into something. You yourself can't change; it's impossible. But you can make your ego different. Your ego always wants to be. It always needs more because it takes from external. Because it's not you. Because it doesn't exist. It needs as much stuff. It needs as much identification with other stuff as possible. So that's why you always find, teenagers, young kids, they always try and identify with, a certain culture. So they might be like they're emo or they're really into rap. And when they get into these things, they embody the whole culture because they don't know themselves. They need an ego that can kind of that they like, basically, that they can feel like they can identify with and that they like, and they can't just be, because that's scary. Like imagine just finding out what you actually are. So they can't do that, but they can put on an act and get this ego, get these kind of mind patterns embedded in them, so that they actually believe that they're something else to what they actually are. Um, Yeah, so I mean that's basically the key thing is that you're aware of your thoughts. If you're aware of your thoughts, what are you? Are you the thoughts? Or are you the awareness? Of course, you're the awareness because you're aware of your thoughts. So that is you. You can't be aware of yourself because if you're aware of yourself, um, then whatever's aware of yourself is you. So you can keep going on. So whatever conversation you're having with yourself, anything that basically you can project that you can think of is not you. So any way you see yourself is probably not you, if that makes sense. You can only be aware of stuff that's coming in your head or the thoughts that are coming in your head or whatever the case may be. And if you want further evidence of this as well, if you think of babies, um, they have no self. They haven't been able to build up a self. They're just aware of stuff. So babies actually can't they can't distinguish between themselves and another baby or another entity, because they just see things all as one. And you can see this with like babies when they're all together, when they're in, I don't know what it is, when they're born and they're in that kind of nursery thing and they're all like that. So one will cry and the other one will start crying because they can't distinguish themselves from the other baby because there's no them. They haven't created a self. They're just aware. So obviously, if you're just aware, you're aware of like, oh, okay, that's making noise. But at no point do you think that's me or this thought that's running through my head is me. They never think that. So they are almost pure awareness. They're just soaking in stuff, and then obviously eventually we corrupt them and tell them, no, wait, you are this or you are that, and that's when the self starts coming together. So the other question, then, for the final question that we're going to deal with, is how do you actually disidentify with your mind? So most people, you'll think that you've been the mind for so long, or you've believed that you're the mind so long, even though you're talking to yourself, that you don't know. One, you don't know who you are, which you're kind of not supposed to anyway. Um, and two, how do you get to who you are? I guess. And really, what you got to do is quiet. The real answer to that is just quiet the mind. So basically, once the mind is quiet, you can you get in touch with yourself. But the key thing is that yourself doesn't think in that way. It just is, right? So any thoughts you have is probably not you. Um, when you're able to quiet the mind, and a lot of people will say like they have a moment of clarity. So a moment of clarity is basically when the mind is quiet and you can see things properly. And the contradiction is that we think that we need to think things through and we need to sort this out, and it can only be sorted out in the mind because that's what society's always told us. It's always put emphasis on the mind. Um, but really, when you get a moment of clarity, and I'm sure you've had it before, you can see things. You can see things completely clear. Um, and all it is you're seeing things. You're not actually thinking of things. You're seeing it. If you know what I mean. So that's the way. That's the way to really do it. So in practical terms, what you need to do is maybe meditate, do things that you enjoy that will keep your mind quiet, that you can focus on 100%, and just be aware. What you need to cultivate is the awareness. So be aware of things, but don't walk around judging things. And you know, when you see a tree, for example, it's all mind identified. Like a tree, when you see a tree, don't look at a tree. Just say, "Oh, that's a tree," and then you move on. So you're not even really aware of it. You've just labeled it already in your mind. So in your mind, you've constructed what the world is, and you see things through the lens of your mind. And the lens of your mind is just words, and it's just technical. It's technical stuff. It's not actually seeing things for what they are, which is why you can have problems in this world where people just label whole groups of people as one thing, because it's easier. It's easier for the mind. Like we can just we don't have. It's so much easier. It's so much easier to do that than to actually look at someone and see what they're about, and you know, even if it's contradictory to what we think we are. It's just easier to look at like a whole group of people and say, okay, you're like this and you're like this and blah blah. And usually, the mind is quite insecure, so it tries to make itself better than other people and all things like that. So if you just generally in your life, just actually see people for what they are. Don't just label them, which is what the mind tends to do. It always has a label for something, or just go through life and just be in the now and be aware of what's going on. And that is the true you. That when you think of animals as well, they don't really, they're completely aware. They're just aware of what's going on, because they haven't got the capacity to think conceptually like we do. So that they can't think necessarily too much in the future, or they can't conceive. They don't even know what they look like. So there's not even really a perception about themselves, if you get what I mean. They just kind of learn as they go, and they're just aware of what's happening. Whereas with us, we're always trying to think of what we are, and we're always focused on our self-image, and we're never actually in the moment, and taking things as they come, as what they are. But yeah, this video has gone a bit longer than I wanted it to. But yeah, I hope that helps. So obviously, the key thing is try and quiet your mind and try and find out, get to your true self and get to your awareness of what's happening rather than what's happening. What's happening is not you. The things that you've been programmed to are not you. What is you is what happens when you quiet the mind, and only you can get to that. So that's it. That's it for today. Bit long one today, but yeah. Cool, man. All right, take it easy. Like, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff, and disidentify with your mind. Don't get trapped in patterns. And yeah, man, just keep going, man. Keep going. Cool, man. Next time.